Good morning, my name's James Igoe. I'm an investment manager at Redmayne Bentley. We are an investment and wealth management firm. We've offices up and down the country. We oversee just over 7 billion in client assets, and we will be 150 years old as of next year. Still in rude health, I'm pleased to report. We're here today to talk about business owners and their journey towards a potential future exit, what they ought to be thinking about. I'm delighted to be joined by Pete Terry from Grant Thornton. Pete looks after corporate finance for the North for Grant Thornton and private equity nationally. Pete, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to hand over to you to kick us off, if that's okay, just by telling us a bit about yourself, about Grant Thornton and some of the work that you do day to day.
Thanks, James. Thanks for that, and really pleased to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm Pete Terry. I run the corporate finance business at Grant Thornton across the North, and I also run the national private equity business. If people don't know who Grant Thornton are, we are an international accounting, advisory and tax business. Corporate finance sits in the advisory part of that business. What is corporate finance at GT? Well, predominantly it's working with mid-market owner-managed businesses and corporates and looking at doing transactions. The most common transaction we do is actually the first sale of an owner-managed business into the market. That first sale is either to trade or to private equity, and it splits broadly half and half. In terms of the deal sizes we work on, then they're broadly in the range, somewhere between 5 million is probably the smallest I'm doing at the minute, and probably 150 million of enterprise value deal size. That's probably the biggest we're looking at across the North. And the average and the sweet spot is around about 20-25 million.
Great stuff, yeah, thank you, Pete. So I'm interested from your vantage, what deal flow looks like across the North and how that might have changed as the year's gone on and some of the drivers around that.
The market is extremely busy at the minute, but it's been a strange year, so that wasn't the case at the start of the year. We came into the year and it was very quiet, it was a very sluggish start, and I think that was a hangover from various macroeconomic and political issues, some of which are still with us. We got some deals done, and deals were done in the market, but they tended to be in certain sectors that were really active. Healthcare and tech are always quite active, but then energy transition, the energy crisis fueled a lot of activity in alternative fuels. So we did a couple of deals in the solar sector, for example. So deals happened, but it wasn't particularly active. Change of government in the election, no surprises. Labour came in, and then people start to get concerned about tax rates, and CGT maybe moving. So that's caused a flurry of activity. So any deals that were in train, people have tried to accelerate them, and people who might be thinking about selling a business in the near future have again accelerated that thought process. So it's busy.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, thanks for that, Pete. In terms of business owners and kind of as they make their way along that journey, one of the things that clearly is going to appeal to them in terms of their decision making is price when it comes to them considering a potential exit. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what else might feature in their kind of mindset when they're thinking about potentially selling a business that they've owned and managed?
Well, you're right, price is obviously the key factor, and entrepreneurs are that sort of mindset where they want to drive the right value and drive the right price. And we would never advise anyone to sell at an undervalue unless there were other circumstances that were driving that. But it is quite nice. Many owner-managers, entrepreneurs, it's not just about getting the most money, it's about other things in the business. They've often formed that business, started it themselves and grown it over a number of years, and they're very proud of what they've achieved. And what they want to do is to preserve that legacy and also manage the other stakeholders in the business and to give them some value back as well. So other stakeholders can include employees, customers, suppliers, and very often a business owner is loyal to the location. They're influenced by a purchaser strategy for the business, and very often they want them to keep the business in the current location. So I think our job is to understand what those wider objectives are and do the right deal, maximising price, yes, but also achieving those other objectives. What about you? When an owner manager will talk to you, I'm sure, through their ownership of a business, through the life cycle of that business, and they talk to you about their potential strategy for exit. How do you manage that yourselves?
Yeah, it's a good question. The business owners that we look after as private clients tend to be pretty direct. It's pretty relevant that we speak to them in plain English and we communicate well, because time isn't always in great supply. From my own vantage, I try to limit the number of private clients I look after, and the extension of that is hopefully that I get to spend more time with the clients that I do, so that when we have business owners who are expressing an interest in a future sale, we can stay close and the way that we want to think about that is we want to position ourselves almost like a family office. So we want to plug in the right advice at the right time to hopefully do the right deal if that's what's best for the client. I think being able to collaborate and coordinate that process well, I think is something that sets our firm apart. So that's kind of the way we try and think about the particular examples. I guess from your side, Pete, when you are beginning to have those conversations, how do they tend to go in terms of some of the key things that you're hearing and that you want to express from your side?
It's interesting. I think we're on exactly the same page. You actually use an expression there that I often use. I think this is about doing the right deal at the right time with the right buyer. And you also said using the right advisor, which I do quite like as long as that's Grant Thornton. But the other thing, and you touched on it there as well, is starting the conversation early. So we're very happy to talk to potential clients and clients over a number of years before the right time comes to do that deal. I have an example now which, touch wood, is hopefully going to happen next week. I've been working with that business for 3 years and we've never quite found the right structure of a deal, the right buyer and the right price until now. We've got that now, so we're driving to get that done. But I think the key is early engagement and a very open conversation around strategy and what the objectives are. And then we can help influence the timing and find the right buyer to do the right deal at the right time.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thanks, Pete. So we're on the precipice of an autumn budget. Clearly CGT is something that is in the headlines. Is there anything in or outside of CGT that you think business owners ought to be thinking about?
Well, CGT is obviously the key factor. I'm not a tax expert, but I would say, is there anything you can do to lock in CGT rates now, then you should be thinking about it. And my tax colleagues tell me there are strategies you can put in place. There could be a change in CGT as early as October in the autumn statement. It's more likely the change will be in April, so next April. But again, that's not very far away. So I think it would be sensible though, if you're minded to do a deal in the short to medium term, then you should be thinking about your tax strategy now. If you're not, I'm a big believer that the tax tail shouldn't wag the dog. And fine, if you are going to lock in rates, great. But if it's not the right time to do a deal, don't do a deal and regret it. We get this a lot with owner managers, and their life is often their business, and it's a massive decision to sell that business. So I think to sell just to lock in tax rates isn't the right thing to do. The other thing to bear in mind is to sell to private equity, which we do a lot of, probably half our deals are into private equity, isn't a full sale. So the entrepreneur can then stay with the business and help drive that business going forward. You can lock in the tax rate for the portion of capital you're going to take off the table now and then drive the business forward. It's also important to remember that a sale isn't always a full exit. So when we sell a business to private equity, which you do probably in half our deals, then okay, you lock in a certain amount of value now, but actually you roll value into the business going forward. And so locking in value at current tax rates is one thing, but then finding the right partner for the business to help grow going forward is fundamentally important.
Yeah, that's great, Pete. I know how busy you are. Thank you so much for making time today. That's been a really useful conversation.
Thanks very much. Thanks, James.